You guys, our worlds or my worlds are colliding because wine has been all over TikTok this week.
All right, go on.
So, an English wine merchant ran the London Marathon.
Okay, that's impressive, but there's got to be more to that.
Well, yeah, he blind tasted a wine at every single mile marker, 25 bottles in total. He correctly identified seven of the wines, which is pretty good considering the circumstances.
Oh my God. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's really sweet, actually. The guy's name is Tom Gilby, and he did this as a fundraiser for Sobel House, which is a hospice that nursed his mother in her final days. He's also something of a wine influencer.
Okay, so I have run a marathon and it was so incredibly taxing. I am amazed with this guy. And I actually watched this TikTok and he isn't just tasting the wine, he is knocking back the wine. He is
Mhm.
drinking like he's hydrating with wine. And I don't know how he did it. This is impressive.
Yeah, and he ran a sub 5 hour marathon. Like, it's a really good time. Dude is fit as a fiddle, and I think we should get him as our spokesman for wine can be good for your health messaging. Sound good?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have no interest in running a marathon. That sounds like my personal hell, but, wine is a really good incentive.
Well, Ruby, I have good news for you. There are famous wine marathons and half marathons all over the world. I think the most well known might be the Marathon du Medoc in Bordeaux. Typically, with these marathons, you have to wear a costume and you definitely taste wines along the way. And in the Marathon du Medoc, it passes by 23 different chateaux, and each one of them hands out wine to runners.
Oh my
Wow,
God.
that sounds like a really cool experience. I have a friend who runs marathons, and she has been known to, I believe, take shroom chocolate at the beginning of the marathon. So I guess it's a thing that I am unfamiliar with.
That's a little more my speed right there.
Our taste buds are no match for probes. Revino brings reuse to wine bottles. Restaurant reservation rage is happening and it's raging, and the hottest spritz spirit has doubled production. These are the wine news stories we're covering this week. I am your host, Katherine Cole, joined by Nick Toole and Ruby Welkovich.
All right, guys, so we normally pick up our news items from wine publications, but this week there's been a news story circulating in the big leagues. It's about the fact that here in New York, there are some restaurants where it's virtually impossible to get a reservation.
Yeah, that's why I live in a small city. This all seemed to start back in March with a piece in the New Yorker stating that reservations are so hard to get that many restaurants in New York City are effectively now run like private clubs. Then there was a piece in Esquire that offered insider tips on nailing down reservations. Mostly it was just advising people hop on Resi or call the restaurant at 10 a.m. on the dot, exactly 30 days in advance. So it's a lot of planning, unless you know a guy.
Oh, God. I have definitely dated guys who quote know a guy, and there's a reason I don't date those guys anymore. But that's another story for another time.
That's so funny because I just saw someone's prompt on Hinge for the prompt, "My greatest strength is," and their response was booking those impossible restaurant reservations.
Okay, sounds like you know a guy. Uh, but, but for those of you who are not swiping right on guys who know how to get those impossible restaurant reservations, you can apparently pay a scalper. A more recent piece in the New Yorker entitled "Why You Can't Get a Restaurant Reservation" has set the media world on fire.
Yeah, it was quickly picked up by a bunch of other publications because it revealed this whole subeconomy of restaurant scalpers who can apparently make $1,000 or more selling their restaurant reservations. They quote a student at Brown University who made $70,000 last year just by scalping restaurant reservations.
Yeah, I love this piece in the New Yorker, which was by Adam Isco. There's this great moment where he says that in 2022, Justin and Haley Bieber were, quote, politely turned away by Carbone when they showed up without a reservation. So apparently they got wise. Haley and her entourage worked thereafter with a private reservationist named Nikki DiMaggio, who secured them a table. And DiMaggio, who charges between $500 and $1,000 per reservation, also owns a sanitation business with more than 40 garbage trucks.
Oh, yeah. I am not going to comment on any DiMaggio in the sanitation business who also happens to sell restaurant reservations on the side. Yeah, no comment.
Yeah, the Four Top has no comment about sanitation business owners who are also scalpers. No comment at
Mm.
all.
Okay. All right. So the restaurant that keeps coming up in these stories is Carbone, an Italian joint with locations in Dallas, Miami, Las Vegas, Hong Kong, and New York. It's in the North Soho area near Washington Square Park. And I'm looking at the dinner menu, and I guess I'm not quite sure why it's so hot. It just looks like a classic old school Italian American food. I've heard of it, but it's just you got your pasta, you got your steaks. This just looks like kind of type of place that Frank Sinatra would have a corner table at.
Yeah, I'm looking at the wine list right now online, and it's looking very banker bro to me. These are the kinds of wines you only want other people to know you're drinking, like Ace of Spades, Opus One, yada yada. Although I will say the Italian list is pretty strong, but everything is incredibly overpriced.
I love that Banker Bro wine. I feel like that could be a whole wine label on its own. I have actually tried to go to Carbone unsuccessfully, but they are most famous for this pasta. It's the spicy vodka rigatoni,
Hmm.
and I have seen a few recreation recipes on TikTok. So maybe we'll post one of those this week.
Yeah.
All right, guys. As evidenced by our recent 2 week dive into alcohol metabolism, which, if you missed, you can listen to episodes 148 and 149. Check them out. But anyway, we are fans of wine science here at the Four Top, and we've got a solidly weird, sciency bit of news for you.
Yes, a very weird and wonderful update from our sensory analysis desk.
Hey, Catherine, what is sensory analysis?
Well, in its simplest form, sensory analysis is just a matter of like tasting through wines to make sure that they came out the way the winemaker intended them to and have not picked up any like strange bacterial odors or flavors.
I did this quite a bit when I worked in beer production, and while it sounds fun, and it is fun, we were often tested by being served beer that had been purposely dosed with some nasty off flavors. So you get this great looking Belgian triple, and then it tastes like stewed tomatoes. Yay.
Oh God, is that like the equivalent of a jump scare in the brewing world?
Yes. Yeah. If you're really good at it, you can smell it ahead of time. But if you just jump right in and take a swig, it's rough.
Yikes. Well, Nick, a new device is being tested at Washington State University that could save you and many others from having to put your palate on the line. Because why subject ourselves to those nasty flavors when we can have a robot do our taste testing for us?
Yeah, as Chris Mercer of Decanter reports, research published in the Journal of Food Science by scientists at WSU, that's Washington State University, found that e-tongue technology could pick up on wine spoilage 4 weeks before the human palate. It's really
I'm sorry.
interesting.
Sorry. I, I cannot get behind the term e tongue. I can't I can't quite parse it, but it just sounds so gross.
Yeah.
Okay, Nick, so you can just go ahead and reach out to those researchers and let them know. Just don't do it from your work email. Um, anyway, this e-tongue has sensory probes, which I imagine are kind of like taste buds. And when you immerse them in wine, they can identify the presence of certain compounds, such as microbes. And okay, yeah, I'm with you now, Nick. Sensory probes on an e-tongue. That just sounds gross.
Yeah, yeah. So these e-tongues were put to the test against a tasting panel, and while the panel was well trained, they were no match for the e-tongue. We're talking about a 3 week difference between when the e-tongue picked up on spoilage and when the panel did.
Well, good job, Etong. I mean, I just had to say it because you guys got to say it so many times. I do you guys think that this thing like what do you think it looks like? I have to Google this.
Oh, it better not look like an actual tongue.
Like a
I think
robot tongue.
I think I subconsciously avoided trying to see what it looked like.
Yeah, the
All right.
sensory
I mean,
probes. Oof.
sorry to disappoint, but it just sort of looks like I don't even know what it looks like something that you would play with in a chemistry class.
Hmm.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. That makes me feel better.
Well, one side note, folks, if you are worried that you're going to lose your job as the world's best blind taster, don't worry. This article says that the device is best used to, quote, complement human analysis instead of replacing it. So I don't think this tasting robot is going to come take your job.
What a relief.
All right. Well, we have some really fantastic news from the world of glass.
That's right. As astute wine folks already know, heavy glass wine bottles make up a significant amount of a winery's carbon footprint, nearly 40%. So there's been a significant push recently to reduce that. So there, alternative packaging options, switching to lighter bottles, reusing glass, and that last one is the subject of our next story.
Yes, this week we're turning to an unlikely source, Packaging Dive, which is a packaging manufacturing news blog. As Maria Rachal reports for Packaging Dive, glass manufacturer OI is partnering with glass reuse operator Revino to create and circulate refillable wine bottles.
Yeah, I am so excited about this. I heard the Revino guys at Live back in March. This was the annual conference for low input viticulture and enology here in Oregon. And I was just so impressed by the two founders, Keenan O'Hearn and Adam Rack. So, the wine industry has tried to do refillable and reusable glass bottles before, and there have always been stumbling blocks. And these two young guys have studied the pitfalls of the past and developed a pretty foolproof wash and return system. Now they have a bottle manufacturer willing to partner with them. So, and they are right here in my home state of Oregon. So cool.
Wow, this is so cool and huge. So, what you're saying is that a major glass manufacturer is on board with a plan to reuse glass bottles, which means that if this program is successful, the demand for new glass bottles will decrease. So, OI will initially develop and make a lot of new bottles, but if the reuse program is successful, they would basically be putting themselves out of business.
Well, I've actually bottled a lot of beer into OI bottles. And let's just say that the physics of how glass breaks and the weak points of the bottles and the pressure ratings and all that are such that glassmakers will never go entirely out of business. There will always be a need for more glass. But these bottles are a little more robust than your normal bottle and they can last for 25 to 50 uses, apparently. So it looks like they might initially be heavier to ship, but supposedly they will have a lower CO2 footprint in as little as 3 uses. So this is a step in the right direction.
Yeah. So starting this summer, OI is going to produce a couple million bottles, which will be filled at participating wineries. Customers will drink the wine and then return the bottles to the wineries or else to participating retailers or restaurants. Ravino will collect them, clean them, and put them back into circulation. So it does require a little bit of work on the consumer's part, but the good news is that the wineries and restaurants get a little bit of extra foot traffic out of this.
Yeah, this is super cool and seems like it's definitely a trend. I've noticed a few restaurants in New York City that are doing reusable takeaway containers. Let me look up the name of it. I think okay, so the name of the reusable takeout containers is called Deliver Zero, and Nick, you also mentioned one called Loop. So that's really cool. And Nick, it looks like OI and Revino have already successfully launched reusable beer bottles.
Yeah, I haven't heard too much about that. I'm in the other Portland, so across the US from there, but I did have the pleasure of visiting a bunch of breweries in Belgium back in 2022, and their bottle reuse program there is incredible. I went to Duvel specifically, and they had this awesome, crazy bottle washer. They would get all these bottles back from restaurants and stuff, and it was very cool to see. So I'd love to see that stateside because glass, despite its high recyclability, is often turned into asphalt filler instead of being recycled because shit just doesn't work that well in the United States when it comes to recycling. So I'm super excited to see this take off here.
Oh, capitalism. So, guys, every summer in the drinks industry, we face this existential crisis when we face Aperol shortages. This is a problem.
I can totally believe that. I love an Aperol spritz.
Yeah, but sometimes when you order an Aperol spritz, it's not actually made with Aperol because it periodically runs out. I mean, demand is higher than production. In fact, I have an off-brand bottle of Aperol. It's wannabe Aperol in my cabinet right now. So, anyway, for our listeners who have been living under a rock, Aperol is, of course, the bright orange Italian bitter aperitif. Its name comes from apero, which is kind of like European slang for aperitif.
Good to know. All I know is that you mix it with sparkling wine and sparkling water and a slice of lemon and experience bliss.
Yeah, well, apparently there's more demand for Bliss than supply could keep up with, but that is about to change. Nicola Carruthers of the spirits business brings us word that Campari Group is doubling Aperol production with a new bottling plant. We're talking an increase here, guys, in Aperol capacity of 100 million bottles.
I remember when the Aperol Spritz became the drink of the summer, like maybe 2 summers ago. My younger cousin, a staunch Gen Z member, was going bananas over them, and she went to Italy with her family and came back like the Mother Teresa of Aperol Spritzes.
So, did she convert you?
I would say I'm agnostic. I don't mind them, but they're a little sweet. I'm partial to a Campari soda. Shout out to my friend Joe who turned me on to Campari sodas. That's the best low alc cocktail out there, in my opinion.
I do love a Campari soda. Well, thanks to folks like your cousin and me, Aperol sales soared by more than 23% in 2023. This is a brand clearly going quite strong over 100 years after its inception.
Yeah, I love reading this and hearing this. I love that Gen Z is excited about Aperol. And actually, this reminds me that the brilliant Liz Thatch, MW, wrote a great piece for Forbes a couple weeks ago. It was about a new study by the Wine Market Council. And it said that apparently 30 something millennials are now drinking more wine than Gen Xers. And high end millennial consumers are spending more per bottle on average than baby boomers. So I'm feeling that this is like a comeback for the wine industry. We got Gen Z drinking Aperol spritzes, and we got millennials drinking high end wine, and I'm feeling good. I'm ready for the wine industry revival. All right, guys. Well, thanks to all you listeners who follow the Four Top on social media and comment on our question of the week each week. I love reading these Instagram comments.
Me too. I want to look back a couple weeks because we got some pretty funny comments on our question, is it time to rename large format bottles? And we asked for suggestions because, as we discussed on episode 147, extra large capacity wine bottles have these weird biblical names like Nebuchadnezzar. So, for example, listener LL Alexander says, I have to admit, I've been calling a 1.5 liter mag a double wide for years.
I love that.
M. McLannon says, since the best wine bottle name in the world is Fiasco, I vote for Levels of Chaos. So let's start with turmoil, tumult, then bedlam, havoc, mayhem, and then the neb becomes a pandemonium. I love that. That's great. That adds a real nice level of fun to the wine industry.
Yeah, and for our listeners who have not seen a fiasco, please go Google it immediately because it is the cutest wine bottle in the world. And I want to add that High Desert Kid says that the 9 liter should now be called Hammer Time. I think that Hammer Time should just play every time someone tries to lift a 9 liter bottle. I don't think I could lift one.
I'll be right there behind him with a speaker.
Stop. Hammer time. Go with the flow.
As a beer person, I see you, Carrera 310, with your suggestion, Caguamas. A Caguama is the 40 ounce of Mexico, kind of.
Yeah, and mas means more. So yeah, I like this. More bigger is what this
More,
what this listener is saying.
more bigger. I actually had a Caguama of Carta Blanca in Austin back in February. Quite
Ooh,
tasty.
like an Edward Forty Hand situation.
I wish, but no one wanted to do that with me.
Okay, wait. Ruby, what is Edward 40 Hands? You need to explain this to me.
Oh man. An Edward 40 Hands is where you take a 40 and then you duct tape it to your hands. And then I guess you take two 40s and you duct tape both of them to your hands, and then you can't do anything until you finish the alcohol that is in the 40.
That sounds horrible.
The biggest roadblock is you can't use the restroom until you've finished at least 140.
Oh my
So,
goodness.
yeah, it's tough.
Oh, I do not approve. This is not alcohol in moderation, folks.
This is like
No.
pre-Borgs, if you know what the Borgs are of the Gen Zs.
No.
Maybe we'll talk about that next week.
Yeah. Wow, real rabbit hole on the Four Top here.
Oh, wow.
Thanks for chiming in. Sorry. I love it. Thanks for chiming in, folks, and keep those comments coming. This week, we will have to arm wrestle over what our question will be. Either how much would you pay for a scalped restaurant resi, or maybe something about reusing glass bottles. Let us know if you have a preference. And thanks for following us on Instagram. We actually have an exciting new platform that will be rolling out soon, but more news on that next week.
It is just an explainer on what the heck a Borgs is.
Yeah, really. Now it is time for our dessert course. And I would like to recommend that everyone go Google this really cute story that I caught in The Guardian this week. It's about a restaurant in Italy that offers free bottles of wine to customers who hand in their iPhones. It's a restaurant called Al Condominio in Verona, and the owner says his aim is to encourage diners to chat with each other instead of constantly glancing at their phones. I thought this was so cute. I love it. What do you guys think? Free bottle of wine if you hand the maitre d' your phone as you walk in. Could you do it?
I think I can. I feel like it's flashbacks to school where you had to like put your phone in a box. But I love this idea. I don't usually keep my phone out when I'm out at restaurants with friends or whoever, so I feel like this is not a difficult challenge for me.
I would throw mine in a river if I get a free bottle of wine. So yeah.
I have to admit, this would be difficult for me because I do take photos of not so much of my food, but definitely of whatever I'm drinking. I'm always taking pictures.
That's fair.
Yeah,
That's
of
fair.
the wine
You
bottle.
are
Get you
you're
like
a
a-
recovering journalist. So.
Yeah, we need to get you a digital camera or something.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been the Four Top Podcast. I am our executive producer, Catherine Cole.
I'm our producer, Nick Toole.
I'm media and design manager Ruby Welkovich.
Keelan King is our sound supervisor and the composer and performer of our wonderful theme music. Please visit our website, thefourtop.org, to learn more about us, listen to back episodes, and learn how to sponsor our work.
If you have not already subscribed to the Four Top on iTunes or Spotify, please do so, and please leave us a rating.
And we have an insider tip for you, Spotify users. If you go to the Four Tops landing page and you click the little bell icon, you'll receive notifications every time we drop a new episode.
Yeah. Well, from the corner table at Carbone, with the ghost of Frank Sinatra by my side, this is Catherine signing off.
From my new apartment in Portland, Maine, and if you follow these sign-offs closely, then you know this is my third move in less than a year. This is Nick, signing off.
That's rough.
And from Brooklyn, New York, where it's currently 83 degrees, this is Ruby signing out. Stay safe and cool out there, and thanks for listening.
Girl, you need an Aperol Spritz.
Yeah, I sure do.